this? Oh, so I've hidden myself on because I'm in on the meeting, and I'm what? What do you mean you can see me? It says, but it says unhide me. I'm hidden at the minute to them. I don't get this at all. Yes.
Tell you what, I'll jump off the phone and we'll speak after the meeting.
Okay, mate. Yeah, because they're going to ask me to speak. Yeah. Who's that prick? You right, Tom? You're right. Okay, I'm just doing my meeting now.
Balcony, all the units meet minimum space standards. Up to the third floor, again, you can see the building's pushed further away from the boundary. This is to help reduce impact on neighbours and also the impact on the street scene. As we move up to the top floor, this is where the 3-bedroom flat would be. It's actually a 3-bedroom flat split over third and fourth floors. This is the living space for that flat. And that's just a roof plan showing the green roofs and the solar panels. So this is the elevation on Christchurch Road, the 2-storey semi-detached properties here. And as you can see, the main material for the proposed one is brickwork, and at these upper levels it's zinc, and these upper floors are set back from the front facade. This is an elevation from Christchurch Close. As you can see, the taller element is on the right hand side there, and then it reduces in height as we go down towards the more suburban setting of 2-storey houses. This one is on the left hand side showing Wimborne Court, and the proposed event on the right hand side. Again, you can see the higher element is located on the corner, and then it steps down. This one is from Christchurch Road, similar fashion, the taller bit on the corner steps down to the more residential setting. So moving to the planning considerations of the scheme, the existing building on the site was actually Grade 2 listed, and that was delisted by Historic England in 2023, so it has no protection from a planning policy point of view. The existing building is also not locally listed. So in terms of the demolition of the existing building, officers support that. There is no policy justification to retain it. As part of the development, the proposal will create 9 family size units, all which meet minimum space standards. This will provide a valuable contribution to the council meeting its housing targets. As part of the development, there will be some affordable housing by way of contribution. That will be just over £11,000, which will be secured by legal agreements. The 2 commercial units at ground floor level would promote and add to the economic aspirations for the council, providing jobs and facilities for local people. So in terms of the design, officers are content that the application site is optimising the potential of the site, which is a requirement from local and national policy. The development is high quality design with a predominant use of brickwork. The staggered building of the heights of the building help to reduce the massing when viewed from the street scene and also neighbouring properties, with a taller element located on the corner, which is a sound planning design requirement. In terms of impact on neighbours, as I said, the staggering of the building helps reduce impact on neighbours. The applicant has provided a sun and daylight report, which confirms that there will be no adverse impact on neighbours. In terms of transport, the development will be car-free, so which means that the future occupants would not be able to apply for car parking permits. Therefore, they would restrict them from having a car because there would be nowhere for them to park, and also that promotes sustainable modes of transport. Cycle parking is in accordance with policy. Servicing will be from Christchurch Road, with further details to be agreed. So all in all, Chair and members, the application is recommended for approval, subject to conditions and Section 16 agreement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stuart. I've got 3 speakers listed to speak on this application. Can I first ask Councillor Caroline Cooper-Marbella? You have 2 minutes to speak. Please. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Councillor Caroline Cooper-Marbella, one of the 3 councillors in Colliers-Wood Ward. I have dealt with many issues in Christchurch Close for years, and therefore it is not a surprise that a number of our residents have been in touch with us to let us know about their concerns about this proposed planning application. I would also like to state that some of the residents who have attended this meeting, but unfortunately they received notification of the meeting just a few days ago, which made it difficult for them to attend. So there is already a significant parking pressures on the close, Christchurch Close. So the proposed development could have a further impact on the parking issues in the close, which is really just a cul-de-sac. And you can imagine the frustration of residents trying to move about on their street. And so this development may create additional challenges in accessing and exiting the roads during the construction. These pressures are particularly bad during school drop-off and pick-up periods on both Christchurch Close and Colwood Gardens. This new development could create an even more challenging environment for residents to park in the area. And then, of course, you have commercial units that, in a proposed development. And this is also going to have a parking implication. Sorry. The inclusion of commercial units within the proposed development is likely to increase vehicle movements, servicing requirement.
I'm very sorry, Councillor Caroline Cooper-Mabe. Your time has elapsed. I did give you a few extra seconds for the phone, so very sorry to hear that. Can I please ask Councillor Joanna Szarajinska? You have 2 minutes to speak. Apologies for the projector not working, but we have a traffic light system here. So when the light goes amber, it means your time is running out, and red means your time is over.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I'm Councillor for Collieswood, Joanna Śledzińska. To add to what Councillor Cooper-Mabe said, this development will impact on natural lights for residents whose homes will be overshadowed by the new building. The height of the building, which will be larger than anything around, will be out of keeping with this place. There will also be a loss of character to the area, with the building being historical, even if not listed anymore. This is one of the last such cottages in the area, and it will have a lasting impact on the heritage in Collieswood. The loss of green space and the potential impact, both on biodiversity and flooding issues locally. The current site has a lot of green space available, and even then, there are still flooding issues in Christchurch Close. Losing this space could only worsen this. So I ask the committee to consider these issues on behalf of the residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I also have James Wade listed to speak. He is online, so please do look at your screens.
I'm going to hide myself. Ta-da. Hi, can you hear me?
I think you're muted, James.
I think I was. Where's the mute button? So I'm just looking for my. Sorry.
Apologies, James. Please bear with us. We're having some technical difficulties and we can't hear you.
Okay.
You try speaking now?
Yeah, can you hear me now? Can you hear me? No. No?
Please bear with us for a few minutes. Could you do us a favor, James? Could you please leave the meeting and then rejoin?
Yeah, I'll try, yeah. Leave. God.
Hello, James. Thank you for joining the meeting again.
Sorry about that.
Hopefully
Can you-
your technical issues, the technical issues have been resolved. Can you please
Can you,
say something?
yeah, can you hear me now? No? I don't know, my mic's on. I don't understand that.
Could you please try speaking again?
Yeah, can you hear me now? No?
Yeah, yes, we can. Thank you very
Oh,
much.
wow.
James,
Okay.
thank you for joining us. Sorry, you have 3 minutes to speak. Ready when you are. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I don't have much to say, just having listened to Stuart there present the case. Just wanted to thank the planning officers involved who've helped me with this. Is Wendy Lan and also Quincy Haynes, the urban design officer. I recognise that the local residents have concerns about the development near their homes, but believe this is a well-designed scheme that will deliver 9 good quality homes alongside the commercial space. An 8-month pre-app took place from March 25 until the full application was submitted in November 25. Throughout that process, every detail was carefully considered, with the urban design officer providing strong input. This included the emphasis on the corner of the building being the tallest point. The scheme meets all the relevant planning requirements as is set out in the officer's report. I believe the application will make a valuable contribution to local housing, and I respectfully ask the planning permission be granted. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James. I'm now going to open this application to questions from the committee. Do I have any questions? Councillor Platt.
Hello, thank you very much. I would just like to address the heritage aspect of this development. I should declare that I am an archaeologist by trade. First of all, I just want to acknowledge the delisting. It certainly does seem, if historically it has delisted it, there is no reason to stop this development to preserve the building, although I would be interested to know if there was a historic building survey carried out as part of the delisting process. My more immediate concern is the potential impact of the groundworks on the archaeological resource on the ground. Though technically it does fall outside the archaeology priority zone, I should stress that it does appear to be directly on the edge of one. More pertinently, the development is situated some 100 metres from a scheduled ancient monument, that being Merton Priory. This considered, has Historic England's Greater London Archaeology Advisory Service been consulted on the development, and what was their advice on how this should be mitigated? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I ask officers to please address that?
Coming on to your last point, historically we're not consulted on the application because it falls outside the zone. We wouldn't normally consult Historic England in that case. Whether it maybe it's a question for the applicant, whether or not they would be prepared to. Usually, what would happen in those situations, we put a condition on the permission requiring, monitoring of the works. Officers have not put that on the application because it's outside the zone. It could be deemed as unreasonable. Maybe a question for the applicant if they're prepared to do that, but bearing in mind that they could appeal that condition and it could be removed. It could be deemed as unreasonable because it's outside the zone.
Can I please check with you, James, your response to that question, please?
No, I'd object to that because if it's outside the zone, it's outside the zone. So yeah, I think it's unnecessary. Did you hear me then?
Go ahead. Sorry, we're having technical difficulties.
Okay,
Please,
can you hear me? Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. No, I would object to that because I think it's unnecessary, as Stuart said, it's outside the zone and normally it wouldn't be required.
Understood. Thank you very much for that feedback. Do I have any more questions? I'm going to ask some other speakers and then I'll come back to you, Councillor Platt. Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Chair. Somebody who lives in a new development that's suffered its flooding in recent years, I'd just like to know if officers can confirm that the amended drainage condition will mitigate any concerns that the flood officer had. For example, is the biodiverse roof structure sufficient to deal with stormwater and so on?
In a nutshell, yes. You know, if they can provide the details and amend the scheme to satisfy the flood officer, then the condition would be suffice. That's fine. We wouldn't grant. You know, we could either potentially, before we issue planning permission, the applicant could have the chance to provide that information, because there will be a legal agreement required, which will take time. So we could either do it post the issuing the decision, or we could do it as a planning condition, whichever suits. But yeah, that would be covered by the condition anyway.
Thank you very much. Councillor Willis.
Thank you, Chair. So I noticed in the mod sheet that the amount for affordable housing is now set, but we have the perverse situation where tonight we're looking at only a third of the affordable housing money in this development as we are for 2 dwellings in Ravensbury. And I just wonder whether, because it's quite new, the financial contribution in lieu for properties 9 and under, whether that is robust and will be good going forward, because, you know, we're already falling at our hurdles with 9 flats and 11 grand.
Yeah, I understand the concern there, Councillor. As part of the viability assessment, we would get it independently assessed by our assessor. So it has been verified that that is the correct contribution that this scheme can deliver.
Councillor Foley.
Thank you, Chair. I'm glad Councillor Willis raised that. I was going to. Parking, as with these schemes, it does always seem to cause a problem, because tenants and buyers of these flats, often, if they don't have a car when they buy it or move in, they get a job promotion, they get a partner with a car, and there is an impact on the neighbouring roads. Has anything been done to try and help the residents around there with parking? Because, you know, I see problems on Sundays, and if you extend that CPZ to 7 days a week, you then stop those residents having members of family maybe visit, because there will be an impact with, you know, it could be anything from 5 to 15 cars. Yeah, potentially. I know you know, it satisfies the London plan, but is there anything we can do in terms of a survey or any suggestions?
Good question. I guess, you know, the existing CPZs in place, that would restrict anyone buying these flats, because they will be made aware when they buy the flats it is permit free, so you will not be able to get a car parking permit unless you're a blue badge holder. If you was to increase the CPZ, obviously that would have an impact on, like you say, the existing residents, and whether they would want that. Whether or not we could justify the applicant looking into whether a CPZ is required, for a scheme of this size, I wouldn't imagine so. It's just simply not a big enough scheme.
Thank you. I thought I'd ask the question. I feared you'd say that. Thank you.
Do I have any more questions? Councillor Hopper.
Thank you, Chair. Can the officer clarify how toilet lavatory provision has been addressed in the application and assessment for the 2 units in the ground floor, as it's not clearly shown in the drawings, and whether relying on building regulation is considered sufficient for a Class E use, or is a limitation of which kind of, you know, shops or developments can be, you know, run in those units? Thank you.
I don't have that particular detail at hand, unfortunately, Councillor, but we can take that away and make sure it does comply. In any event, if members were to approve the application, there would be a separate application to Building Control where this would all be assessed and signed off. But we can look into that if you want us to.
Great question. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? Yes, please, Councillor Will.
Hi, just recognising that on the south of the development, there's a big advertising board. Now, someone's obviously benefiting from the revenue from that, the advertisers paying to have their advert there. Have we looked into who that is and whether there's any legal risk around someone going after that?
Huh? That wouldn't be something we'd look at as part of this application. That would be, I guess, a private matter between landowners, unless the applicant maybe want to come in on that point. That's not something that we'd really look at.
Is there anything further you'd like to add?
no, I don't
James?
think it's
Please bear with us for 1
relevant.
second as we prepare
Sorry.
the microphone. Yep, you're all good to speak.
No, it's not relevant to the planning position. So yeah, and it has no, there's no rights for it in the title of the property at number 70 now. So yeah.
Yep, John.
Thank you, Chair. What we can do, actually, whether that is authorised and has the necessary consent, and we'll carry out an enforcement investigation around that.
Thank you very much. Do I have any more questions? Councillor McGrath.
Yes, thank you. Can I just double check my understanding on the CPZ position? Isn't the whole area covered by various CPZs? How far do you have to go before you don't get into a CPZ?
I think that area's covered quite a lot by CPZs. I haven't got the map in front of me, so I couldn't answer that question for you, unfortunately, councillor. But you can only apply for a car parking permit if you live in that road in the CPZ itself. So they will be restricted, and they can't apply for any other CPZs.
Thank you very much. Do I have any other questions about this application, Councillor Platt?
I'll just go back to the heritage. Thank you for the explanation. I do accept the legal arguments. I just want to re-stress my concerns with the whole principle, because the archaeological process does not block development; it relies on development. And as a borough, it's in our interest to make the most of the development process to enrich our cultural arsenal. In this instance, I feel it is a missed opportunity to give something back to the Collieswood community. But as I said, I do accept the planning regulations, yes.
We could, councillor, if it makes a bit easier to stomach, we could consult Historic England potentially and ask them, see what they think if you feel that is necessary.
A consultation with Historic England, that would be very grateful. Yes, please.
Okay, we will try. Like I said, it could be deemed unreasonable for a condition, but we can investigate that certainly.
Thank you.
Okay, do I have any more questions from members? Nope. Then I'm going to ask, are there any comments members would like to make? Councillor Willis.
Just very briefly, Chair, I think like the pact says that we weren't going to rehearse the sort of heritage thing of the building again, and we sort of have got back to that. And I think from a planning perspective, it says that there is no grounds to prevent the demolition of the existing building. So that would have been my main objection to the development. So if Heritage England says that I can't stop the development because of the, heritage nature of the building, well, then I think we have to probably take their word for it.
Yep, I've got an agreement from John Berry here. Okay, but that's a hypothetical situation.
Yeah, we can make that check, Chair.
So we have to vote on what we have in front of us, subject to. Okay, so thank you very much. Do I have any other comments from the committee? Councillor McGrath.
Well, just I would expect to see a very strong planning reason for us turning down 8 new homes. Given the enormous shortage of new homes, we're always being told we can't build in the green belt, we need to build in brownfield sites. This is a classic brownfield site in the middle of Colliers Wood. I can't imagine any real reason. I don't understand the points about car parking because they're not allowed to apply for CPZ tickets. So I can't see any reason why I would want to turn this down. 8 new homes is 8 new homes that people would be able to live in, which we all know we need.
Thank you very much. I think 9 new homes and 2 shops.
Thank you, Chair.
Touche. Do I have any other comments from the committee?
Shut up. We've had enough of it.
Then can I confirm there are no more additional conditions or variations that we're proposing? I don't think there are. Fantastic. So I'm going to ask for a vote on this. If you are against this application, can you please raise your hand now? If you are in favour of this application, can you please raise your hand now? And if you are not voting, can you please raise your hand now?
That's 8 in favour and 2 not voting, Chair.
Thank you very much. That application passes. I'm now going to move to agenda item 6, 39 Florence Avenue. Can I please ask Stuart to please introduce this application?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Hopefully you can see my screen again, councillors. So the application site is here, is number 39 Florence Avenue. The existing building on the site is a single-storey bungalow. Just to give you a bit of context of the site, to the east is number 37 Florence Avenue, which is a part single bungalow with accommodation in the roof. On the left-hand side here is a detached bungalow, single-storey. Opposite the site, on the opposite side of Florence Avenue, are two-storey houses. To the south of the site, John's Lane. It's a mixture of detached buildings and semi-detached buildings. This is just a quick CGI of the proposal. So the proposal for members is a demolition of the existing bungalow and erection of a pair of semi-detached houses. This is just the CGI from the street scene, and this is the one from the back. So in terms of some photographs of the site, this is the application site here. As I say, it's a single-storey bungalow, on the right-hand side, a two-storey house there at the end, and this is the bungalow with accommodation in the roof space. And then you can see further along the street, there's a two-storey building. The application site here, this is the corner of Florence Avenue, so it's not too far from the junction. Again, another photograph from the front of the building, which is here, this application site. This is the development opposite the application site, which has been redeveloped into two-storey housing. I believe there was bungalows there before. This is a two-storey building on the opposite side of the street, opposite the application site, again, two-storey building. This is the application site on the left-hand side. These are the properties opposite in Florence Avenue. You can see two-storey buildings again. Another one opposite the application site. And the reason why I keep pointing out the two-storey buildings is because the street scene is made up of bungalows and two-storey buildings. And I understand there's been some local concerns with the removal of bungalows. However, there is no policy justification to retain these bungalows. The site is not in the conservation area. The building is not listed in any way, and the two-storey building proposed in this location would not appear out of character. So in terms of the planning assessment, like I say, there is no protection to retain the bungalow. So let me just go through some of more of the photographs. This is the photograph of the application site from the back. So here is the proposal before members. This is the proposed building here with 2 car parking spaces to the front. Integrated cycle parking and bin storage is going to be incorporated into the boundary treatment. Single-storey conservatories at the back here proposed, and 2 large gardens. Just going to go through the floor plans. As you can see, these are 2 semi-detached buildings. They are 3 bedrooms, quite a large living space at ground floor with a conservatory at the rear for each house. As we move up to the first floor, there's 2 double bedrooms here. Likewise for this house, 2 double bedrooms there. As we move to the roof, there are some bedrooms in the roof, 1 for each dwelling, and then there's also an ensuite within the rear dormer. These are the streets and elevations here. The planning office has done quite a lot of work to improve the appearance of the new dwellings. As you can see from the pack papers, there is a before and after images, so officers have worked really hard to improve that. This is the rear elevation down the bottom with the rear dormer. It's a very traditional design. Draw members to this elevation is quite useful. The image at the top is the existing situation with the bungalow here. And as you can see, the proposal below is a two-storey building, which would go above the two adjoining bungalows. But as you can see from the street scene, as the street rises, so do the heights of the building, so it fits comfortably in the street scene. And this is just some details relating to the cycle, parking and bin storage. So overall, the officers consider that the development is maximising the potential of the site for new housing. There will be one additional house on this site compared to existing. The design is high quality. All the rooms meet minimum space standards. There are two large-sized rear gardens. The increase in height of the buildings responds to the other houses in the street scene. Officers consider there's no adverse impact on neighbours. I'll just show you this. This is quite a useful image here. This is the proposal here, the two adjoining neighbours. As you can see, the two-storey element would be in line roughly with the neighbour's conservatory there. And on that side, it will be roughly in line with the two-storey element, single-storey element of the bungalow. And at the back here is the conservatory, but all of the building is set away from the boundary by approximately 0.8 metres. So in terms of transport, there will be one car parking space per dwelling, which is in accordance with the London Plan space standards. Officers have noted that concerns have been raised in terms of impact on local surrounding streets and parking pressure. However, it should be noted there is an existing 3-bedroom bungalow on this site, and the proposal would only create one additional unit compared to the existing unit, and that will be a 3-bedroom house. So in terms of the additional car parking pressure, there will be some additional pressure, but not a significant amount to refuse planning permission from a planning perspective. So just concluding, Chair and members, high quality development, increasing the housing numbers again, similar to the previous scheme, but just one additional in this case. No adverse impact on neighbours, and the proposal would create 2 family-sized units. Therefore, the application is recommended for approval, subject to conditions and Section 106 agreement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now have listed to speak 2 objectors, Bernadette Canning and Ras Obera, as the councillor, Councillor Peter McCabe, and then the agent. I'm going to begin with you, Bernadette. You will have 3 minutes to speak. Apologies for the technical issues, but you'll be able to follow your time based on a traffic light system here. So when your time is running out, you'll be turning the light will turn amber, and when your time has run out, it'll be red, and I will have to interject. I'm sorry. Please, ready when you are.
Good evening, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Bernadette Canning. I'm 79 years old and have lived at 37 Florence Avenue for the past 53 years. I would like to correct a small point in the officer's report. On page 86 states that I have a conservatory. This is not correct. It is an open covered patio. Regarding parking, page 87 of the agenda, section 135 refers to parking provision. In reality, there appears to be space for only 2 cars at one house and none at the other, as shown in the photograph on page 88. As shown in the planning history on page 89 to 91 of this report, 11 houses have already been built at this end of Florence Avenue, with construction at number 33 ongoing for the past 2 years. Our road, therefore, has experienced continuous development and disruption for a considerable period. The report also refers to housing need. However, these homes are not affordable housing and therefore will not address that need. The owners live abroad and will not form part of our community. Rather than repeat the many planning concerns listed in the objections on page 92 and 93, I would like to highlight one issue that directly affects my home, the proposed air source heat pumps, which are planned next to my patio and garden. These units can produce between 40 and 60 decibels of noise, which could disrupt the quiet environment of my home and garden. I respectfully ask that their locations be reconsidered. Members should be aware that during construction at number 35, the contractor caused several problems to my property, including damage to my boundary wall, trespass onto my land, removal of my fence without permission while I was away, and cut a gap in the wall to insert a post for electric gate. Ground levels were raised, which caused flooding in part of my garden and shed. With the help of Councillor Charles and legal advice, these issues were eventually resolved, but it took several months. Because of this experience, the prospect of another development so close to my home caused me serious concern, particularly garden excavation, drainage and stability, land stability, and the risk of further damage. I am aware of a neighbour's plan to demolish 2 garages opposite number 39 for a future development. At this stage of my life, all I ask is to be able to enjoy the sanctuary of my home and garden with my family and friends without facing more years of construction and disruption. I respectfully ask the committee to listen not only to developers, but also to the residents who have cared for this community for decades. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I please ask Raz Oboro? You will also have 3 minutes to speak. The traffic light system will be the same. When you have 1 minute left, the amber light will go on. Ready when you are.
Oh, wait, well, okay. Right, good evening, Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Raz Oboro. I live at 30 Florence Avenue, directly opposite the application before you this evening at number 39. Thank you for the opportunity for allowing me to speak. Florence Avenue is a very small, narrow residential area, and in recent years, we've had experienced significant and ongoing development. There are currently 2 active construction sites on our street, and for residents, that has been prolonged disruption from noise, dust, heavy vehicles, and damage to pavements and greenery. Approving another demolition and construction project will add to what is already cumulative and ongoing impact on residents. As someone who lives directly opposite the project, of the site, I would like to highlight the issues of parking and road congestion. I personally struggle daily to navigate both Florence Avenue and Ravensbury Avenue due to parked vehicles and construction activity. At times, the road becomes extremely tight to pass through safely, and there have been genuine concerns whether emergency vehicles will be able to access the street safe quickly if needed. I note that within the officer's report, concerns have already been raised regarding parking pressure and cumulative development impacts. And from a resident's perspective, these are not occasional issues, they are part of everyday life. The pressure is also being felt by nearby roads such as Arras Avenue, where residents have reported increasing difficulty with parking, particularly for essential journeys such as hospital appointments. I'd also like to highlight the strength and feeling within our community. On the 4th of April 2025, my neighbour and I, Bernadette Cannon, we organised a petition regarding the proposal, and in just one day we had 109 residents sign it. This reflects genuine and immediate concern about the level of development taking place in our area. And another important point is the loss of bungalow housing. While the report notes that bungalows do not have a specific protection, they are important from an accessible housing for senior residents, those with mobility needs. And once they are lost, they are very unlikely to be replaced. So finally, there's also a question of sustainability. The existing bungalow is already a substantial home, and refurbishing it would mean more environmentally responsible option than demolition and rebuild. So we understand the need for housing, but we respectfully ask the committee to also consider the people who already live at Florence Avenue and the cumulative impact and continuous development this is having in our community. For these reasons, we respectfully ask the community to refuse this application. Thank you, Chair and the members of the committee.
Thank you very much. I now have a list to speak. Councillor Peter McCabe, you will have 2 minutes. Apologies again for the technical issues. You can follow your time based on the traffic light system here.
Thank you, Chair. I'm quite familiar with the traffic light system in here. I've been a councillor for 40 years and I've represented the good people of Florence Avenue for that time. And one of the things that has been really apparent in that area over the last few years is just how many developers are moving into the area and cashing in and constructing new buildings without any thought or consideration to the impact that it has on this really lovely oasis in the middle of my ward. And I think there is a really important point to listen out to there, because you've heard the residents speak eloquently about the impact that all of this building and 11 buildings in the last few years, that's had a really detrimental impact on all of them. The pavements have had building lorries driving up on and cracking the paving stones. Residents have fallen over and you know, been injured as a result of that. The roads are full of potholes. The building companies seem to have no consideration. And I think at some point we have to kind of ask what's kind of a locality are we creating here? There are problems with parking, there are problems with noise, there are problems with nuisance. And I think it is really important that you take into consideration. And the one question I would ask all of you, and I know you have very strict rules that you have to apply, is what would you be thinking if this was going on in your street? I think we all know the answer to that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. I now have Anthony Williams. I believe you are online. Please bear with us as we get our technical system ready. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. I will let you know when you're good to go. Great. Please go.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, we can.
Okay, yeah. The proposal is actually not for a developer. It's for the family who live in the property. The husband is actually he doesn't live overseas. He lives in the UK. It's the wife who lives overseas. The house has become too small for the family, and that's why the intention to increase the size. We wrote to neighbors to address all their concerns or questions which they may have been concerned about with regards to the proposal. And also we've put together a construction management plan to manage the construction process, which the sole intention of this is to prevent any form of disturbance to the neighbors. The property, we're proposing off-street parking, so it's not going to be a burden to the neighbors as well, because we've consulted with the transport department. We've produced a sweat path analysis, which shows without even touching or damaging any of the trees in front of the property, adequate provision for 2 parking spaces to cover vehicular access. So it's not going to be a nuisance to the neighbors. The works are also not going to be a nuisance to the neighbors because we've put most of these things are going to be put in place. Because it's not for a developer, it's for the family that will be occupying the property. The intention is the woman is relocating back to the UK. Her children are grown up, and she needs a bigger space. It's very expensive to buy. For them to buy a new property in the UK, and they would rather just remain in that neighborhood because they love the neighborhood, and that's why they have proposed. That's why they've decided to go ahead with this proposal. I would ask that we've been on this since 2024, consulting with the local authority, modifying the designs to ensure that it meets with local planning policies. So my request is that this application is granted, so they can also have a good quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm now going to open the floor to questions from the committee. Do I have any questions? Councillor Willis.
Thank you, Chair. I note in the report that it says that obviously this area is under an Article 4 direction. That isn't actually permanent until full council agrees, being in Ravensbury, and Ravensbury, I understand from residents, has been affected by the fact it's on the cusp of where the Article 4 direction is already enforced. So I wonder whether for the purposes of this application, because we're not yet there, whether there can be a condition about it not being an HMO.
It's for their private use, not for an HMO.
Thank you, Councillor. The Article 4 direction is heading towards, as you say, it's heading towards full council in September potentially with a recommendation to make it permanent. My understanding is you're asking a question whether or not we can add a condition now to say that if it was made permanent, then can I just talk through what condition you're looking for?
Yeah, sorry, Chair. So this has an informative at the end of the mod sheet saying, don't worry, there's going to be an Article 4 direction in Ravensbury, so this can never be an HMO without having to have planning permission. As it was until the Article 4 direction came in, that wouldn't be the case in Ravensbury for the small dwelling. So therefore, my question is, because it's not actually in yet, I'm one of those boring people who believes in the vote in September, therefore there isn't a permanent Article 4 direction on this site. So if that was voted against in September by full council, this wouldn't have that protection. So I'm asking us to protect this site because of the proliferation of HMOs in Ravensbury.
I think just to say, thank you, Chair, just to say that the Article 4 direction is in place now, but Councillor is correct in saying it's not permanent, and the permanence would depend on the vote at council in September. I'd need to pass on to my colleagues in development management whether or not it's applicable to apply that kind of condition.
Thank you, Chair. I'm satisfied that we can include a condition to take away the permitted development rights.
Okay, we'll come to that at the end of the after these questions. Do I have more questions on this application? Councillor McGrath.
Thank you. Two questions. One of the speakers, the neighbour, sorry, I've forgotten your name, madam, commented on the noise of the heat pump that was going to be next to her house. I wondered if there is any, if that is a reasonable. It seems, I know we often get comments about noise from heat pumps. Is that something that we can do anything about? That's just a sort of general question. I also had a question on the informative, although from a rather different direction from my colleague, which is I'm not sure why this informative is here either. I mean, there is at the moment an Article 4 direction. There either will be in future or there won't. Why would we need to make this point here when it will either be covered or it won't? It doesn't really seem to add anything to the situation. So I wonder if we could just have an explanation of why that's in there. Thank you.
Coming to your first point, Councillor, about the air source heat pumps, we can condition further details of that. You'll find with air source heat pumps, a lot of the time they don't actually need planning permission. It's subject to size and noise output and things like that. So we can put a condition on to ensure that it would actually comply with those requirements, just to help the neighbour.
And Chair, just to talk about the informative, that doesn't carry any weight in the decision. So if members want that to be removed, we can do that.
Okay, because the Article 4 direction is in place at the moment. So whatever decision happens tonight, this would be bound by the Article 4 direction. We're only now talking about the hypothetical is if it doesn't get passed in September, but then would that lead to concerns from the applicant, perhaps seeing this as unreasonable that his application is under greater scrutiny than others? Or I'm also agree with Councillor McGrath. I struggle to see the point in adding this condition if we already are under an Article 4 direction.
I think where we have added the condition about removing PD rights for HMOs, it's usually relating to the impact on the highway. So if members felt there was impact on the highway as a result, if it was changed to a HMO, then that would be our route to impose the condition.
Great. Do I have any more questions on this application, Councillor?
Thank you, Chair. The speakers who are speaking objecting to this application today were obviously stressed their concern about the noise that various building sites have caused in area and disruption. I'm just wondering if the officers could, should this planning application pass today, whether officers can say anything to these speakers that would alleviate some of their concerns about noise and disruption.
Yeah, sure. Any development is going to have an impact. I'm going to say it doesn't because it quite clearly will. But from a planning perspective, all we can really do is impose planning conditions and require the applicant to provide full details we would consult our highways colleagues, environmental health colleagues to ensure any disruption is kept to a minimum as much as possible. So, for example, I was just thinking we could add additional conditions onto this development if neighbours are concerned, which will hopefully try to alleviate their concerns as much as possible. One of the conditions we could add on is the working method statement, which requires a lot more detail. So we could add that on if members felt that was necessary, of course.
Great, thank you very much. Great question. Do I have any other questions on this application? Councillor Hopper.
I would like to adhere to that as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Daniels.
Unless I missed it in the report, can you confirm how long this the project will take in relation to from beginning to end of the just due to the concerns of the residents with the noises, so just to alleviate the effects to the duration?
Yeah, sure. There is no time limit of when they would have to complete the development. All the requirement would be was they would have to start work within 3 years. So once they start work, they would have potentially as long as they see necessary, but hopefully I'd like to think they would do it quickly. Other than that, you could maybe pose a question to the applicant if they've got some timelines. But
check with the applicant your ambitions for when, if this was granted permission, what timeframes you are expecting to operate under.
Yeah, the project we're looking at between 12 to 18 weeks for the project.
Bear with us. I'll let you know when we're able to hear you. Yep. Can you try speaking now?
Okay, I said between 12 to 18 weeks. That's the projected program.
12 to 18 weeks. And do you have an idea for when, subject to this, were permission to be granted, do you have an idea about when you are likely to start?
The intention is to start as soon as all the conditions, once we discharge all the conditions, we'll start work.
Great, thank you very much. Do I have any other questions on this application? Nope. Then I'm going to go to comments before talking about the conditions we're going to add. Do I have any comments? Councillor Foley.
Thank you, Chair. For those that don't know, I've got a background in property, and I suppose I'm poacher turned gamekeeper. I acquired bungalows to be developed in the late 80s and 90s, and in recent years I've been retained to find bungalows, not for mature residents, but for 2 of them have been for young people, quadriplegic, sports injury, and it's very difficult to find bungalows. And I am worried that we're losing them. I feel for these residents because it is the thin end of the wedge. As they get developed, I'm afraid that, you know, other developers will look and they may find they are offered money for their sites. You don't want to be the last one left, but there is a problem for bungalows. And I just wondered if I know there's this immense pressure. Well, I'm asking a question now, I'm not, but I am concerned about the loss of bungalows overall, and I would like us to perhaps think about things when we are looking at perhaps small closes where it's very easy to change them into houses and developments. A little more thought on those schemes really, but I don't think I'll be voting on this one. Thank you.
Councillor Willis.
Thank you, Chair. I really feel for what the residents are saying, but the NPPF calls for the optimum use of the site rather than the protection of bungalows. Perhaps there is a future where it should care for that because of the disabled, the elderly, but we would lose an appeal if we rejected for that reason. The disruption from other developments is also not a reason to refuse. Owners being abroad, and I quote, not being part of the community is not relevant when the permission goes with the land and not with the owner. So I really do appreciate the democratic right of calling, but I don't think necessarily that it was fair to give false hope on this one because I can't see any planning reasons to refuse.
Thank you very much. Councillor Shearer.
There we go. Thank you. No, I do share my fellow councillors' concerns that this could be turned into a future HMO, and I think we should consider whether we want to put any future restrictions on this development. Secondly, I do take into consideration what the residents have said, that there have been a number of developments in the locality over the past few years. I understand the disruption that that could have caused. I do hope that the 16 to 18 week timeline could give them some respite, that this potentially won't be an ongoing development. In the light of that, I do wonder if we would want to consider shortening the time that planning permission would be available for that reason. For example, down from 3 years to 6 months to a year, to give residents some assurance, I think, that this development will be completed in a timely manner.
It is possible to vary the time for the implementation of a development. That would have to be judged to be reasonable, because there would be a right of appeal against any reduced time frame. 3 years is very standard.
Well, I mean, we have the applicant here who said they can complete it in 16 to 18 months. So I think that is grounds that, 6 months would be reasonable, would it not?
I think on the basis of what the applicant has said, that it wouldn't be unreasonable to reduce the time to start in this case. 6 months is I think could be too short, but perhaps half, 18 months, 2 years.
And I would like to hear from the residents what they think about that.
Can I first check in with the applicant, considering what you said previously? Is this something that you would agree is quite a reasonable condition to add to this application? Apologies, we're having technical issues. I think you're ready to speak now.
Okay, we're referring to the time for completion of the project. Is that the question? Because I didn't hear that part.
No, the restriction would still be in terms of the time to commence the development.
Okay, yeah, yes, I know my client is willing to start off the works and have it completed as soon as possible.
So were we to submit a condition of perhaps 12 months, 1 year, once your conditions are discharged, would that be a reasonable thing you would accept?
Yes, we will.
Okay, thank you very much. Do I have any other comments? Councillor Bowley, are you coming again?
Thank you, Chair. Sorry to come back for another bite at the apple, but something I meant to say, is there any way we could inspect the public realm so that if there is any damage from construction vehicles, not just directly outside, but an inspection so that paving can be made good afterwards, so that residents aren't tripping, because these developments take place, and I think it's an opportunity to get in first, see the condition of the public realm, and make sure it's made good afterwards.
I think that's a great suggestion. I'm checking with officers if that's
that's fine. Sorry, Chair, just coming back to the previous point about the time frame. It would be 12 months from the date of the permission, not the discharge conditions, because the discharge condition could carry on for quite a long time.
Thank you for correcting me. From when permission is granted. Thank you very much. Should it be granted, if it is granted? We're all in agreement about the public realm survey and ensuring that any damage done from construction vehicles are repaired thereafter.
Yes, we can factor that in, Chair.
Great, thank you very much. Do I have any other comments? Councillor Hoppersler?
Thank you, Chair. For the officers, I was, concerned also of the heat pumps, mainly with the local neighbors. Would it be any possibility to adhere some new, guidance where they have to be, positioned, or how far they should be from the fences against other neighbors in the future applications?
Sure, we can set that out in future applications, what the permitted development criteria is, so you can see basically where people can put the air source heat pumps without any planning permission.
Great, fantastic. So I'm going to now go through the conditions that we have added here, and we'll have, oh, apologies, Councillor McGrath, I didn't see you there.
Oh, sorry, that's fine. Sorry, I've only just put my hand up. I'm two things. The first one is I'm a bit concerned about some of the comments. I don't think there's anything wrong with developing being done and somebody's going to sell it or somebody's going to rent it. We need rental houses and we need houses with properties of all sorts of tenures. So I don't see any reason why whether or not the developer's going to live there should possibly be an issue. I want to disagree with my colleague's point about the HMO, a permanent ban on HMO. There may be a case for not allowing this to have planning permission to be an HMO, or there may not, but we have not had that case made at all here. We've not had any paperwork on whether it should be permanently banned from being an HMO, and I don't think that's the sort of decision we should make. Just like this, the applicant should be given the opportunity to put a proper case. If indeed they do, there's no evidence they do want to make it an HMO, but if they did, when we have the direction order, they should be given that opportunity, and it should be properly discussed by this committee or by officers or whatever the appropriate thing is. So I would like to disagree with Councillor Willis.
Great. I think we might all be in agreement here, because I think the condition is just about removing the permitted development rights. So it's not blocking it from in future from becoming a HMO. It's simply saying were there any ambitions for it to become an HMO, it must come back to the planning team of the council, and it could also be subject to a call and come back in front of the planning committee in such a hypothetical. Okay, fantastic. So I have a number of conditions. I'm going to go through them, and for speed, I'm just going to group them all together, and I hope there will be consent. Let's see if there is consensus. Otherwise, we can go through them one by one. The first one is a working method statement raised by Councillor Daniels, Councillor Butner, to ensure that it's done in a timely manner and in a responsible manner, in a manner that's respectful to his neighbours. There's the condition on removing the permitted development rights for HMOs, suggested by Councillor Shearer and Councillor Willis. We then have the the condition on ensuring that work must begin, should this be granted approval, work must begin within 12 months, again proposed by Councillor Shearer. Please remind me, have I forgotten one more condition?
Air source heat pumps.
The public realm from Councillor Foley, ensuring that should any damage from construction vehicles be caused by this development, it will be fixed. So the air source heat pumps, yeah, that the air source, and sorry, the fifth one, air source heat pumps, to ensure that any introduced to this development would meet the planning regulations that we have in the council, the permit development. Fantastic. So I have these 5 additional conditions we are imposing. Can I see a raise of hands if you are in support of these conditions for these applications?
I'm in support, Chair.
If you are against these conditions, and if you're not voting on these conditions?
I'm not voting, Chair.
Great, thank you very much. I'm now going to ask for a vote on the application itself. Can I ask those who will be voting against this application to raise their hands now?
None, Chair.
Can I ask those who will be voting in favour of the application to please raise their hands?
8, Chair.
And then can I ask those who are not voting to please raise their hands?
2.
Thank you very much. That application passes. I'm going to move on to our next item on the agenda, which is number 7, Rains Park Sports Ground. I believe we're going to have a swap of officers, and Callum McCullough will, when he is seated, be able to give us the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Can you all see the screen? Right. So the application site is Rains Park Sports Ground. It's currently it's owned by the local authority, but is currently leased and operated by the Wimbledon Hockey Club. The Hockey Club are a subsidiary of the Wimbledon Club, who are located near to Wimbledon Park in the north of the borough. The existing site is fairly informal in its nature, so it has 3 cricket pitches. In the summer, it's got 5 football pitches in the winter, and then it's also got a rather kind of dilapidated Moog facility to the south. Also to the west of the site is an area of woodland, and that's designated as SINC, which is a site of importance to nature conservation in our local plan. And to the south, it's accessed via Taunton Avenue, and there's an existing car park which serves the recreation ground. So turning to the proposal, what the applicant proposes to do is to construct an all-weather football and hockey pitch, but primarily used for hockey for the purposes of Wimbledon Hockey Club. Adjacent to it would be 4 floodlit covered paddle tennis courts, just adjacent to the woodland there. It's also proposed to have a perimeter woodland path around the site. The hours would operate between 7 and 10, Monday to Saturday, and Sundays and bank holidays would be 8 till 6:30. There's 2 different layouts. In the summer, it would be 3 cricket pitches with an enhanced provision in terms of 3 artificial wickets, making it slightly more resilient from a cricket perspective. And in the winter, it would be 3 grass pitches, it says 2 there, 3 larger grass pitches, 2 7-a-sides and 2 5-a-sides. And that would be alongside the all-weather hockey and paddle facility, which would be year round. So this just turns to the particulars of the all-weather hockey pitch, which is the main part of the development, essentially. And so this would be floodlit, so it'd be 6 15-metre high floodlit columns. There'd also be a 5-metre security fence around it, and also sustainable drainage. The paddle courts located to the west would have 4 floodlights each, 6 floodlights each, so 16 times 6-metre lighting columns, and tempered glass surrounding them at 6 metres tall. They all have a lightweight canopy at roughly 9.3 metres tall. So considering the case as a whole, we consider the scheme delivers a modern state-of-the-art sports facility, including the all-weather hockey pitch, paddle courts and cricket provision, and it would significantly enhance year-round access to sport. There are significant sport and health and well-being benefits, which are considered to outweigh the slight harm to the MOL in terms of openness from the intensification of the use from, for example, the floodlights and the canopies. There would be strong community benefits. This would be delivered through the hockey club themselves and their operations, but there would also be a community use agreement attached to by condition, and this would ensure that the site is made available to use by outside users when it's not in use by the hockey club. And overall, we consider it should be recommended approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have 2 speakers listed to speak, Dr. Jack Sugro and Paul Knowles. I'm going to start with Dr. Jack. Thank you very much. You'll have 3 minutes. We have a traffic light system. When 1 minute remaining, it will turn amber. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair, committee members. My name is Jack Sugro. My family and I live on Somerset Avenue, which backs on directly to the Rains Park Sports Club, and I've been appointed by the residents of Taunton, Somerset and Camberley Avenue to speak to you against this proposal. Whilst we fully support community sports, this proposal is an aggressive commercial over-intensification that directly violates your local planning policies regarding metropolitan open land, green corridors, and, as you mentioned, sites of importance for nature conservation. Let's start with the floodlighting and the fallacy of the mature tree shielding. To allow for floodlighting, the applicant has, in our opinion, misleadingly characterised our quiet woodland environment as a medium brightness E3 zone, the same as for a small town centre. They confidently claim our properties will be shielded from 15-metre, 4-storey high floodlights, 6-metre paddle lights and the rugby pitch lighting by mature trees. Hockey and rugby are winter sports. For over 6 months of the year, there is absolutely zero coverage from these deciduous trees. No shielding from the severe light pollution hitting all of our homes and the nocturnal SINC habitat. Approving this sets a dangerous precedent. There are no other floodlights on local open green spaces anywhere in Rains Park. Their transport statement is equally flawed. They rely on an unmarked 75-space car park accessed solely from a narrow cul-de-sac, Taunton Avenue. Currently, weekend usage by the Wimbledon Club has caused complete gridlock on our residential streets, blocking residents exiting or leaving for up to 20 minutes, filling the streets with cars, adding year-round, daily 15-hour floodlit play, 12-metre coaches, turns this weekend chaos into a daily nightmare, completely blocking access, safety for vehicles, for emergency vehicles. One example that their traffic data is mathematically fabricated to hide the true impact is they explicitly claim paddle courts only generate 8 players at a time. Paddle is exclusively a doubles game, therefore doubling the amount of players required and also those waiting. This glaring error calls into question the credibility of their entire transport assessment. The devastation of the MOL. The applicant claims very special circumstances to build 4 massive paddle courts with multiple high canopies on protected MOL, falsely claiming that they are virtually invisible. In truth, they sit directly on the Beeline Way, disrupting 1,200 cyclists and pedestrians, destroying your green corridor, and there is no impact assessment for the character and frequency of gunshot-like sounds of the sport. Tellingly, their ecological appraisal also attempts to hide the massive 70% net habitat loss by omitting the paddle courts from their initial calculation, and also compromising grassroots sport safety, as the RFU explicitly states the proposed rugby pitch runoff fails to meet World Rugby Safety Standards. Committee, this is a land grab of public metropolitan open land by a wealthy private members club purely for the benefits of their own members, forcing an incompatible high-intensity facility into an ecologically sensitive space. Uphold your own environmental policies and reject this application.
Thank you very much. I have Paul Knowles listed to speak online. Please bear with us for 2 ticks as we sort out our technical issues.
Thank you.
Okay, you're good to go.
Good evening, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. My name is Paul Knowles. I represent the Wimbledon Club. I'm also the founder of a local charity focused on giving children in Merton greater access to sport. The Wimbledon Club are a community amateur sports club committed to providing inclusive sport. The club took on the lease of Rains Park Sports Ground 2 years ago. The ground had experienced antisocial behaviour, drug use, and was underutilised. We are proposing to bring 2 sports to Rains Park, whilst also maintaining and increasing the current sports offer. One new sport is the increasingly popular paddle, the other is hockey, which was played on the site in the past. The Wimbledon Club has been without a home for hockey for over 35 years, yet our players have driven the club to success, among them juniors and seniors who represent our national teams, including Olympians. This scheme would give them a high quality pitch to call home. Alongside the new sports, we will improve the existing facilities. That includes work to fix the drainage, so all grass sports have less waterlogging. We will also increase grass sport provision by reclaiming space to the south of the plot, currently covered by an old topsoil dump. The site has been operating at a significant loss since we took over. The new sports, the floodlighting and the hours of use set out in this application are fundamental to the site's economic viability and to the enjoyment of sport, including community use. The club has already invested heavily with the renovation of the kitchen and pavilion. The pavilion will be open to the public and we've retained previous pavilion hirers. Neighbouring residents, including those on the Carter House estate, receive a discount on the bar and facilities. Local charities and state school children get free and discounted use. We will keep the site an open space with walking, picnicking and dog walking enhanced with a new perimeter path and dedicated litter areas. The scheme will also make contribution to improve residents' parking and access to the site, as well as introducing new spaces for bikes and e-bikes. This plan also supports Merton's borough sport ambitions, giving more residents of every age and ability access to high quality facilities and a chance to play. We believe this application brings significant benefit to our community. Our plans have been supported by over 150 local residents through representations on the planning portal and through the petition, and I kindly ask the committee to support it in full. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to open the floor now to questions. Are there any questions on this application? I see Councillor Willis.
Thank you, Chair. I think the resident mentioned the access from Taunton Avenue, which is clearly, even without this application, a bit of a nightmare at the moment. At 8.7.4 in the pack, it says that the widening and associated works are part of the application. It doesn't say the timing, who pays, what it actually involves. The mod sheet says that a financial contribution is being secured to widen the access, but can I ask for any more detail to know whether it's acceptable to members?
Yeah, so there's no cost ascribed to it yet because it would have to be costed, but the intention is that it would be secured under the 106 agreement because ultimately it's a green spaces facility. So that would there would need to be some scoping out as to the exact nature of the access enhancements in terms of widening, obtaining a cost, and then that would be appropriately secured under the 106 agreement, and it wouldn't be unusual to deliver that post committee.
Do we have any other questions? Councillor Budner and then Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. Can officers explain how community use will be secured through the S106 agreement so that local residents, schools and community groups can access these facilities, just to make sure that they are as widely used as possible?
Yes, so at the moment there's a draft community use agreement submitted with the planning application, and that is outlined at this stage, but that basically sets out key principles, including making sure the site would be offered to other local groups and the public, both in terms of clubs, but also on a pay-to-play basis when the Wimbledon Club aren't using it. And there would be a final detailed agreement secured by condition. And yeah, that would be essentially the mechanism by which the community benefits would, there wouldn't be any sort of lapse in use for the site. It would be used as much as possible by the community and the Wimbledon Club.
Councillor Foley.
Thank you, Chair. Mine's also to do with the access, Callum, because I mean I've gone here to coach before, and parking is very difficult with just a few rugby teams there. The old bowling club that fell into disrepair during COVID, is that still in its current state, and would it be protected? Could any money be found to put that back to how it was, because it's been left? I think there's molehills or badger sets there.
As I understand it, the Bowls Club falls outside the lease of the Wimbledon Club, so it wouldn't be within their remit to.
Still with Merton though.
Yes, with Merton, exactly, and to deliver a contribution towards that would need to be justified in planning terms, and I'm not sure if it would be in this case, given the benefits of the scheme as currently proposed.
Councillor Hopitler, I think I saw your hand.
Thank you, Chair. As a sport being my background, I have also to comment that I'm very pleased that we can, have better facilities for these sports. I understand how difficult it is to have fields that are not just for football or rugby. So these, different sports will, feel and benefit all our, children in the area. I would like also to support the London Borough of Sports as Merton. And I have two concerns about the flooding. Is the area is not good, so they need to make sure that it is approved, it is under good planning, it is possible in that area to support all these fields. And also my bigger also concern, like my colleague here, is how far they will in the future be available for, like go and play, pay and play. I have seen other developments, not under my current job as a councillor, but previously in my sport life, seen development happening in Wimbledon, where they intend to be used for the communities, and at the end, as it says here, when they say that they cannot offer it to the community they want, and this community then will use the facilities less and less over the time, because what I read is that they will offer to the community as far as it's available or free to use. So maybe I would like to see if we can have some statements how far and how much they can offer to the community along the weeks or the year. Thank you.
Thank you. So on your first point on flooding, I think it was. So as you would have read the officer report, there were some initial concerns about flooding by the flood officer, and it was felt by them that whilst greenfield runoff rates were achieved by the proposal, there could be further betterment on that. And the flood officer from the officer report indicates that that could have been achieved by a technical detailed condition. So with reassurance from the flood officer, we're satisfied that we can deliver the scheme and it not have undue impacts in terms of flooding. In terms of the community aspect, I think it's important to state that as a baseline, there is a significant community benefit from the hockey club operating the site themselves. They run a significant number of schemes. The applicant's probably better to state out everything they do, but they offer a number of schemes with children, for example. So that provides community benefit in itself. The aim of the community use agreement is to make sure that at any time when it's not in use by them, that it is offered up to the wider community, and that would be secured through the community use agreement.
But that is a bit of my concern, that sentence is when they don't need to use it, or they won't use it themselves, not to be more extended along the years. That's my concern, because they have priority is of course their facilities, but we would like to to keep also this nice new development to be available for the community as well.
Yeah, so it's something we can look at in the use agreement to make sure it satisfies those concerns when it's discharged by condition.
Great. Would it also be worth bringing the applicant in to discuss in detail about some of the community uses? Because I think that's part of your question, isn't it? So, Paul, I'm going to try and get our technical issues to work, but would you be able to perhaps add a bit more detail into some of the community uses that you currently have at the hockey club, etc.?
Yeah,
you're good to go.
Great. Yeah, so we already work extensively in the community with Sport for All. So I personally run a sports charity which uses other sites that we operate, and that operates around many of the state schools in Merton, bringing young children, especially from deprived areas, into sport. And this site will give us the opportunity to bring them off school site and onto the facility free of charge. We've also been working with the Merton Sports School Partnership since 2017 to support their great work in providing school sports. So we run, for example, the Merton School Sports Festivals, and this facility will give us the opportunity to do more of that. As Callum said, we've got over 800 children from across the borough who play hockey. And so they'll get access to the sport. And I think importantly, to your point, is the community use agreement, as well as us having a real focus on community sport, the community use agreement will obligate us not just to provide sport for the community and for these groups when we're not using it, but it will have a specific number of hours per week. So we want the site to be used every week by people outside of the Wimbledon club, even though I just explained some of the good work we do. But in addition to that, we want people outside the club using the facility every week, and we're committed to providing a meaningful number of hours every single week for the tenure of this site. And we genuinely want it to be a community asset for all.
Thank you very much. Councillor Foley.
Thank you, Chair. Just listening to the gentleman, Jack, the objector there, about light and deciduous trees. I have had dealings with this when I was a chair at Rickard's Lodge, and I know that that was a concern of residents then. And Paul is probably the person to ask, because that's 8 years ago. And I think initially when the first started talking about putting floodlights in, they changed from the initial quote and what was going to be put in the school. Over 4 years, the technology, the light spill had changed considerably. I don't know if Paul, the applicant, has anything he can share to maybe, it won't solve all the problems of the neighbours, but it might. I know that light spill was addressed, and I was quite surprised because I wouldn't want that at the end of my garden. But at the end, they did have things, and they were, the light spill was a lot less. So I don't know if we can just ask how the impact on those houses, or you may have it already, Callum. I don't know, but
I think it's fair to say that when it comes to lighting, it's much more contemporary than it used to be. I think the technology's come on quite a lot. And in terms of the Lux plan, insofar as the woodland adjacent to it, within a very short distance, the Lux levels fall off very significantly to very dark. So the case officer was satisfied that there wouldn't be harm, both in terms of the sink and in terms of trees.
I can add.
Councillor Orson.
Oh, sorry.
Two things really from me. I think number one is just what the applicant was saying about meaningful kind of openness to the community. I'd love to understand what that definition actually is and whether it truly is meaningful. Secondly, recognising that there's 3 pitches outside of just the hockey pitch. I think one, there is certainly a boundary issue. Sports like football, rugby, it looks like the boundary is on the tree line. That I'm surprised would meet any sort of health and safety standard. But I think what we probably need to recognise is a big part of this application is around the benefits to the community, access to sport, etc. If we assume 3 games of sport taking place at 2 p.m, all finish around the same time, we've got a game of hockey taking place at the same time, that's probably around 100 people playing sport. Facilities need to exist afterwards as well to continue the benefit provided by the site. Would the site be able to ultimately support 8 teams at minimum at any one time?
I will.
Apologies, was there a question there?
Yes.
I was asked to stop sharing a second. What was the question? Forgive me at the end.
Can the site support at minimum at any one time 8 teams?
8 teams
in facilities, so changing, for example, showering.
Probably one for the applicant to say.
Yep. Can I bring in Paul, please? Bear with us as we get our mic ready. Okay, we're good to go.
Thanks. Yeah. So currently the site, as Callum explained, during the winter has 5 pitches for football and rugby. So there's already the provision for 10 teams in the current configuration of the grass site. And of course, there was an extensive traffic plan which monitored traffic flows and added the obviously the paddle and hockey and modelled how that would change the usage of the site, and that concluded that both the facility in terms of the pavilion, but also more importantly in terms of the access and the parking, that could be accommodated. And then another condition in the 106 is CPZ, so that it should people flow into off the site, then the residents will be protected through CPZ, which will be conditioned under our expense as well.
I think Councillor Austin was also asking about other facilities, not just parking, such as changing rooms, showers, to accommodate the increased usage of these pitches.
Yeah, so we've already spent substantial amounts on the site. So the kitchen was condemned, it was unsafe, and there's some other safety issues which we've rectified. So we've already spent significant amounts on the pavilion to make it safer, and we're very respectful of existing hirers. You know, so the Karate Club, for example, have been using the site for many years, and we've managed to maintain them as a hirer, and we're very proud to support them as a big community asset. But we've also got extensive plans to improve the pavilion even more, both for teams but also for local residents. As I explained, what we're going to provide is a discount to people in the neighbourhood, so Taunton Avenue, Somerset Road, and the local estate. They'll get 20% discount, and we want people to use this pavilion not just as members of the Wimbledon Club and as sport users, but also for casual use, for local residents who might be walking a dog, or or wanting to use an informal venue to have a drink as well. So yeah, that will be possible through the extra pavilion development that we are proposing.
Thank you very much. And can I just double check on changing rooms and showers? You are confident you'd be able to accommodate the increased need, the increased usage of the pitches with those types of facilities?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, that's really important to us as well as a club that has a responsibility to our members. So, that is absolutely core to what we will do. It's not in our interest to build a facility that doesn't have adequate facilities to support people off the field. So yeah, we're very confident, and we've spent extensive research to make sure that that's possible.
Thank you very much. Do I have any other questions? Councillor Daniel.
In terms of the residents' concern about the noises, increase of noise from the paddle court especially, I was just wondering, you did highlight that there'll be glass walls. I'm not sure if you said there'll be a covering as well. Would this help to minimize the noises coming from the court?
So in truth, the canopies themselves, I don't think mitigate noise to that much extent. The main noise from paddle does come from banging the ball against the walls. But I think the key thing to consider here is the distance from neighbouring properties, which is, as set out on the officer report, was roughly 100 metres. So as sporting provision goes in a sort of suburban environment, that's quite a healthy separating distance. And there's also a number of conditions which ensure that noise won't go beyond acceptable limits at the residential boundary. So hopefully that satisfies you. Thank you.
Councillor Willis.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question on B&G. It might be one for the programme manager from Regeneration, but it's basically about where it's spent, because we have a big deficiency in this application, so the money's going to have to be spent on B&G offsite. The mod sheet says that it's formally allocated, it has to last 30 years, and that a condition's been recommended. Can that condition be that it is spent in ward? Because a big criticism of residents is they lose the green space and then the biodiversity happens somewhere else.
So it's something we can explore with our green spaces team in terms of whether there's a deliverable project within the borough to deliver the required number of credits in terms of B&G. And if that's not possible, then it would need to be outside of the borough. But it's something we can explore with green spaces post permission.
Councillor Foley.
Thanks, Chair. I read in the report 11 bat boxes. They didn't think that was enough. Could we do more to make sure we've got certainly the right number and some more bird boxes, maybe even an owl box, because we have got owls in the borough and they are losing buildings. This is an ideal part of woodland, so it's an opportunity to make sure that, you know, we keep that going. We can't put swift boxes in for former Councillor Hicks, but maybe an owl box.
So there's an existing condition for bird and bat boxes, but we can add something in there to maximise the provision for certain species.
Do I have any more questions? No, then I'm going to move on to comments. Would anyone like to speak on this? Councillor Willis?
Thank you, Chair. England and Wales Cricket Board do not support the scheme. I'm just very conscious of the fact that with Lesser, when I first got elected, and now this, we seem to be constantly ignoring the cricket voice here. Sports England do though, so we need to balance that. All the sorts of cricket stuff, all the changes that happened required bigger nets, but I understand now that all the nets are gone, the cricket nets, which is probably good because most of the original objections that I saw were around the height of the cricket nets abutting the residents of Somerset. And I think the flood lighting on the rugby pitch is now also gone, which was originally in the proposal. Like they might have temporary lights, but the permanent fixture's gone. So with all that in balance, basically I just need to look back at the open space and green infrastructure policy, which does say that the development being for alternative sports, you only basically approve it if the benefits clearly outweigh the loss of the current or former use. So I just want to, before we vote, just make sure that members are aware of the fact that they need to be aware that they can only vote for this really if the benefits clearly outweigh the loss due to the lack of the damage to the MOL and biodiversity. Thank you.
Councillor Hopper.
It's an honor to be, Merton London Borough of Sports, and I'm very pleased that, different finance, companies want to invest in our area to improve our sport facilities and fields. But I'm also concerned about our green spaces. So I would like, to support both, our sports in the area to improve and increase, the green, the field places and indoor sports mainly, for all our, residents, but not, damaging our nice parks and green spaces as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do I have any other comments on this application? No, then I will move to a vote on the application as it stands. I'm going to ask those who will be voting against this application to please raise their hand.
Madam Chair.
Those voting in favour.
That's 9, Chair.
And those not voting?
1.
That application passes. Thank you very much. I'm going to move on to our next item on the agenda, and that's the confirmation of the immediate Article 4 direction for HMOs in 13 wards. Could I please ask there to be a slight switch over, and whenever you're ready, Tara, the microphone will all be yours.
Thank you, Chair. I have 5 slides here today, councillors, just to take us through the report that you have in front of you. This is about the proposal to make the Article 4 that was introduced in March permanent. Councillors, you're seeing this tonight in your role as advising on council planning policy as part of your role at DPAC in the Constitution. So you may be aware, and it's set out in the report, that back in February, the council voted to introduce an Article 4 direction into another 13 wards in the borough, effectively making this borough-wide. So now we have planning controls borough-wide for small houses of multiple occupation. Starting point, though, is that houses of multiple occupation or shared houses or shared flats are not all bad. There are many well-behaved landlords, there are many well-behaved tenants, and they're definitely a type of home that we do need in Merton. However, when they are poorly performing, they are often extremely disruptive, both for the tenants and for their neighbours. And that is why Merton is using every tool at its disposal, including the planning rules, to try and improve standards for residents, for tenants, and to make sure that we do have good local amenity in the borough. We first did this for 7 wards back in 2022, and this year in March we introduced it in 2026, which always means that everywhere in the borough is now covered. So this is a map that you may have seen before. The purpley bit is the 7 wards that were introduced in 2022, and the pinky wards is the bit that was introduced in March of this year. So an Article 4 direction was brought in immediately, but it is subject to public consultation. So it started in March. It will finish in September if full council don't vote on it. And you'll all see this report in detail at full council in September. The public consultation is still ongoing, so in fact it finishes tomorrow, and I'd like to start by thanking everybody who's responded so far. And in fact, even sitting here at committee tonight, I can see responses coming into the consultation as they do before a deadline comes. So councillors, I'll update you on the responses we've received as at yesterday. We've got over 40 responses to date. Most of them are very comprehensive. Some of them are simply one line, we support this. They're raising lots of different issues, and the report you'll see later will set out all those issues, and we'll take them all into account when we're passing this to you for the vote in September. Not unsurprisingly, most responses we've received support the proposal to continue these planning controls, mainly citing local amenity, parking, noise, bins, disturbance, some non-planning matters that are addressed by licensing and other factors, but all of them again around improving local amenity for residents. There are 5 objections at the moment, mainly from the landlord sector. Some of them are supportive of the fact that matters should be improved for many of them point out that they feel that they themselves are well-performing landlords, and that they feel that this is a penalty against them. Often around the costs and the burden of extra legislation. Those kind of issues come up in the objections, and we have 2 responses that are about other issues really and don't support or object. So we will publish all the responses online starting from next week with all the personal details removed, so anybody will be able to read the gist of the responses. I of course will be summarising them for you in the report as this goes forward. And the final slide is just summarises what is in the committee report in front of you, which sets out how we got here and all the different changes that are made, including the future meetings that this will be considered at. Chair, that's the end of my presentation, but I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you for an excellent presentation, Tara. Can I ask, are there any questions about this Article 4 direction? Councillor Willis.
Thank you, Chair. I think you've mentioned licensing, and we at the moment have the situation where there's some selective licensing, etc., and additional licensing. That will still be the case after the Article 4 direction comes in. So is it that this committee could maybe recommend the expediting of the changes to licensing? I'm conscious of the fact that full council voted against that in September 2025 when proposed. So I just want to make sure that that licensing change does happen. Otherwise, we're going to still have inconsistencies in the borough.
While this report doesn't mention licensing, my understanding from my housing needs colleagues is that we are looking at different legislation or different licensing issues. We're continuing to do research on that. So I'm afraid I don't know whether or not this committee has the jurisdiction to make that recommendation, but I'll pass to the chair. And
I'm from legal. For licensing, it'd be a different regime, so we can't really deal with it as a planning committee. It's dealt with in a different way.
Do I have any other questions on this item, Councillor Foley?
Thank you. No, Chair, I'd just like to thank Tara again because it's the second time this week I've seen this presentation, well, nearly all of it, and it's very good. It's even better the second time round. I knew what was coming, and it's great to have it presented. Thank you, Tara.
Here. Any other questions or comments? Well, thank you very much. So once can I ask whether we all agree the report? Can I please hear, is it a consensus? Yes, agreed. Fantastic. The report is agreed. I think that brings our meeting to a close. Thank you very much for joining us for our first planning committee of the, I'm speaking too soon. Stuart, please.
Sorry, Chair. This one, it's not actually on the agenda, but some of you may already know that it's John Berry's last planning committee this evening. After working here for 4 years, I'd like to thank John for his support, officer support throughout that time. It's been a great help, John, and I'm sure members will echo that. You've provided some great comments for members so they can make sound decisions on planning applications. So we wish you all the best, John, with the Royal Borough of Kingston.
I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. And I've had a great time working here for the 4 years with the committee. I'm not just saying this. It has been the best committee that I've worked with. The really supportive, and the level of consistency between officer recommendations and member decision making has been truly fantastic, and that was reflected in the peer challenge review that we had. And that makes a great difference to officers, to know that they're going to have the backing of members and the support, and you've always taken our advice, and it's been really appreciated.
Merton's serious loss will be Kingston's gain. We will all miss you so much, John. Thank you. Right, if with no more items on the agenda, I close the first planning committee meeting of the municipal year. Thank you very much.